Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics. Dio here. Today we have a 2005 Ford Freestyle with a 3.0 liter. In this video I'm going to show you how to remove and replace front brake pads and brake rotors. This vehicle needs brakes. We're going to replace the brakes in the front, so the pads and the rotors. I'm going to show you how to do that on the driver's side, and then I will do the passenger side off camera. Okay, it's the same process on both sides. So now the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the tire. I'm gonna get the tire off so we can get access to the brake caliper. So let's get the tire removed, and the lug nuts are 19mm nuts. So we're gonna remove these. Alright, so check this out, guys. Watch that. You see this play over here? This is abnormal. So this outer tie rod is defective. We're gonna have to replace it. Okay? I'm gonna notify the customer, and then we will order 2 new outer tie rods because we have to replace them on both sides. Ideally, you wanna replace both of them at the same time, so the one on the driver's side and the one on the passenger side as well. Okay, even if the one on the passenger side is still good, I'm gonna replace both of them. Okay, I always like replacing both of them as a set. All right, so now let's get these brake pads and the brake rotor removed. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the brake caliper. The brake caliper is held on the caliper bracket by these 2 bolts over here. There's this one and this one down here, and these are 13mm bolts. So we're gonna remove them. So I'm gonna undo this one and then this one up here. So we're gonna remove both of them so we can remove the brake caliper. Alright, so we got the bolts removed. So now I'm gonna lift up the caliper. Alright, so here comes the brake caliper. So we're gonna hang the caliper over here on the strut, but before we do that, I wanna retract these caliper pistons first to make sure that our caliper is not frozen, and then we will continue. So we're gonna retract these pistons over here. Let's make sure that these pistons on the caliper are not frozen. All right, so right there, easy peasy. I hope you can see that. The caliper pistons are retracted. That's good. So now we're gonna hang this caliper up here. All right, so we got the caliper out of the way. So now we're gonna remove these 2 bolts that hold the caliper bracket on the steering knuckle. And these are 15mm bolts. So let's get the pads out of the way. Look at these pads, completely worn out. So first one is removed. So that's good. I'm gonna remove the second one. And now here comes the caliper bracket. All right, so here comes the brake rotor. So look at that. This rotor is worn out. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. So we got the brake rotor and the brake pads removed. So now we're gonna clean up this bearing flange over here. We're gonna clean this up and then we're gonna install the new rotor. All right, so this is cleaned. We're good. So we're gonna apply a little bit of anti-seize compound over here before we install the new rotor. We're gonna prep our caliper bracket. So we're gonna make sure that these caliper pins slide in and out easily. So that's good. We're gonna slide this one out and clean it off. And we're gonna apply some new anti-seize compound on these pins. Just like that. We're gonna do the same thing on this one here. So right there, that's good. So now we're gonna remove these springs over here. So we're gonna clean off this area. So that's good. So now we're gonna apply a little bit of anti-seize compound over here on the bracket. It's good. So that's good. As you can see, we got our new springs installed on the caliper bracket. So that's good. So we can take this to the vehicle. Now the next thing is gonna be looking at the brake rotor. So we got these rotors from Napa, and let's make sure that the rotor is not rusty. Alright, so here is our brake rotor. As you can see, it looks good, it's not rusty. So now let's take this to the vehicle so we can install it. So we got the brake rotor installed. So now we're gonna clean it with some brake clean. I do have a drain container down here to catch all this brake clean. Alright, so the rotor is cleaned. So now let's reinstall the caliper bracket. So here comes the caliper bracket. And then there's this piece of iron over here that goes up here against the knuckle. We're gonna use this torque wrench to torque this bolt. I hope you can hear the torque wrench click. And the torque spec for this bolt is 65 foot-pound. Alright, so that's good. So now we're gonna install our new brake pads. So now we're gonna install the inner pad, and then we're gonna install the outer pad. Alright, so now the next thing is gonna be installing the brake caliper. So I'm gonna bring the caliper over here. So we're gonna apply a little bit of grease on the caliper, just so this thing doesn't squeal, because we don't want some squeaking brakes. Alright, so right there, as you can see, I have applied grease on the caliper, so that's good. So now we can install our brake caliper. Alright, so now we're gonna tighten the brake caliper bolt, and the torque spec for this bolt is 35 foot-pound. So I hope you can hear the torque wrench click. So that's good, that's tightened. So now we're gonna tighten this one over here. So that's good. So that's good. So we are almost done. All the bolts back here are tightened. The caliper bracket bolts are torqued. The caliper bolts are torqued as well. So we're good to go. So now I'm gonna bring you guys back out here. All right, so check this out. So the joint on the outer tie rod has excessive play. So we're gonna remove this outer tie rod. To remove this outer tie rod, we're gonna have to undo this nut, and we're gonna undo the nut over here on the inner tie rod. Now, before we remove this outer tie rod, we have to make sure that the amount of threads that we have over here sticking out on this inner tie rod will be the same amount of threads we're gonna have when we install and tighten this nut after installing the new outer tie rod. Because if we don't make sure that the number of threads here stays the same, that can mess up our steering angle, and the steering wheel inside the vehicle can be off-centered, and which will require aligning the steering wheel or aligning the steering system. So I'm gonna try to get this as close as possible so we don't have to do the alignment, but if it requires alignment, then we can also do that. Okay, so I'm gonna count the number of threads over here. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16th, like on the 16th thread. So that's good. So now I'm gonna undo this nut over here. So I'm gonna use my pipe wrench. So right there, so that's undone. So now we're gonna undo this nut over here. Okay, this thing is just spinning. All right, so we got the nut removed. So now we can push the outer tie rod down. As you can see, oh man, this is completely worn out. So we're gonna thread it out of the inner tie rod. So check this out. There's definitely excessive play. So check this out. I hope you guys can hear the play on this joint. So this is completely bad. So I'm gonna bring the new one up here so we can install it. All right, so I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on these threads over here. So here is the new outer tie rod. So this is the old one and this is the new one. So we're gonna install this. So we're just gonna thread it onto the inner tie rod. So as we do this, we have to make sure that we still have 16 threads over here. So I'm gonna count again just to double check. 1, 15, 16. Okay, that's good. So now we can install our outer tie rod. All right, so this is tightened. So I'm gonna tighten the nut over here. So that's good enough. Okay, so as you can see, our outer tie rod is installed. So everything looks good. Okay, so we're good to go. So now let's reinstall the tire. I'm gonna put the tire on and then I'm gonna lower the vehicle so we can torque the lug nuts. Alright, so now we're gonna torque the lug nuts. All right, so that's good. All right, guys, so I'm gonna leave it right over here. This is how you remove and replace front pads and front rotor on this 2005 Ford Freestyle. We also replaced the outer tie rod because it had excessive play on it, and we torqued the lug nut. The torque spec for the lug nut is 110 foot-pound. So I'm gonna leave it right over here. I hope you liked the video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why so we can make better videos in the future. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. And if this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.